All right. Hi, everybody. This is my audience. So, the year is 1958 in the United States, and James Buchanan's Democratic Party is split over the slavery debate, and the newly founded Republican Party has taken precedence in the House of Representatives. With the debate over the admittance of Kansas as a slave or free state in the air, that year's midterm election would be a deciding one between the pro-slavery Democrats and the anti-slavery Republicans. So here's a map showing the United States at the time, and here's the Kansas territory where it was under debate. So in an article published in the Smithsonian Magazine on the top 10 most historic midterm elections, T.A. Frail discusses this election and the way its results impacted U.S. history. The 1858 midterm election gave Republicans a greater presence in the House, which then spiraled into the 1860 election of Abraham Lincoln, then the secession of the Southern states, and then the American Civil War. So the midterm elections have continuously proven themselves as pivotal in American history, but voting trends show them as being some of the least participated in. In 2018, however, we may defy that trend. I'm going to discuss some more examples of consequential midterm elections, historical voter turnouts, and efforts to change history in the November 6th election of this year. So let's begin by going back into history. So it's typical for the midterm election to come out as a referenda against the policies of the sitting president. So in 1964, Democratic President Lyndon B. Johnson overwhelmingly defeated Republican Barry Goldwater for his first full term as president. However, after the Johnson administration implemented some voting rights and civil rights acts, they passed Medicare laws, and then escalated the Vietnam War, Democrats lost 47 House seats and 3 Senate seats in the 1966 midterm election. And then eventually that spiraled into Richard Nixon's election in 1968. Now, this trend was defied in 2002 when the midterm maintained a Republican majority under President George W. Bush. It led to the vote on declaring a war on terror in 2003 following 9/11, and it led to the foundation and the funding of the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, or ICE, in 2003. So one would think that as consequential as midterm elections can be, that their voter turnout would be pretty high, but this is not usually the case. So Dr. Michael McDonald, a political science professor at the University of Florida, has created an online source for the U.S. On the U.S. electoral system, and it's called the United States Elections Project. And according to this study, the last midterm election that saw a higher turnout than its prior general election was in 1838 when Martin Van Buren was president. But since then, the trend is pretty consistent that presidential elections see a much higher turnout than midterm elections, such as the turnout after President Lincoln's election, which was down 16.7%. It was down 16.1% after President Kennedy's election, down 12.2% after Ronald Reagan's election, and down a whole 20.6% after President Obama's election in 2008. So in a study conducted by Pew Research, Professor McDonald goes on to explain why this happens in modern times. So primarily, it's due to growing voter ineligibility within the United States, shown by the larger population in prison now, and then a larger population not registering to vote, so 18-year-olds not registering to vote. But still, of eligible voters throughout history, numbers are consistently and historically low. So what are we doing in 2018 to make a little history and change these numbers? So in a 2018 CNN article by Annie Grayer, she discusses Rock the Vote, which is a voter registration outreach program, which over the summer 2018 held a voter registration tour throughout the United States of America. And it's partnered with activist groups such as the March for Our Lives and Teaching for Tolerance. Another organization is Next Gen America, founded by billionaire Tom Steyer, who has invested $30 million into voter engagement efforts for the upcoming election. And he aims to bring the youth turnout up from its 40-year low in 2014. So after looking at some historical midterm elections and the way that they have and continue to define our history, let's summarize. Some of America's biggest moments have occurred because of what occurs at the polls. This includes what happens at the midterms. Even so, voter turnout in these elections has consistently been 10 to 20 points lower than the preceding presidential elections. We don't know whether or not efforts to change this trend in 2018 will be successful until November, but what we do know is that the midterm elections, as disregarded as they have been, are some of the most vital and consequential in our democracy. So thank you to my audience for listening, and that's it.